My phone buzzed at 9:47 that night. I almost ignored it. I had just finished a 12-hour shift at the hospital and was sitting in my car, too exhausted to drive. The screen showed one word. Mom. I smiled despite how tired I was. Maybe she was calling to tell me how her anniversary dinner had gone. She and my stepfather were celebrating 25 years together. I hadn't heard anything all day, but I assumed everyone was busy enjoying the evening. I answered, "Hi, Mom." She sounded annoyed before I could finish speaking. "Where are you?" I frowned. "Outside work." "What do you mean?" "We've been waiting." My heart skipped. "Waiting for what?" She sighed dramatically. "Our anniversary dinner." I looked at the clock. It was almost 10 o'clock. I didn't know there was a dinner. "You were invited." "No, I wasn't." She laughed as though I were making excuses. "I texted you." I quickly searched my messages. Nothing. I never received anything. "Well, we're finished eating now. Come to Bella Romano." I blinked. "The dinner is over." "So?" "I told everyone you were running late." "Hurry." Before I could ask another question, she hung up. Confused, I drove to the restaurant. Bella Romano was one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Luxury cars filled the parking lot. Inside, the hostess looked at me politely. "Are you joining the Harper party?" "I think so." "They're still in the private dining room." As I approached the room, I heard laughter. My younger brother Jason was telling a story. Everyone clapped. When I walked inside, the conversation stopped. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Mom folded her arms. "There she is." I forced a smile. "Happy anniversary." My stepfather barely nodded. Jason smirked. "Took you long enough." I looked around the room. Empty dessert plates. Half-finished coffee cups. The celebration was clearly over. "I just got your call." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "Whatever. You're here now." The waiter appeared carrying a black leather folder. Without even looking at it, Mom slid it across the table toward me. "There. You can take care of that." I stared at the folder. "What is this?" "The bill." I opened it. The total was $4,862.40. For a moment, I thought it had to be a joke. Then I looked around the table. Nobody was laughing. "You want me to pay?" Jason leaned back comfortably. "You're the successful one." I looked at my mother. "You invited me after dinner ended." "To pay." She shrugged. "You make good money." "I worked as an emergency room nurse. I made enough to support myself. Not enough to casually spend nearly $5,000 on someone else's celebration. I can't afford this." Mom frowned. "If you can't afford one dinner for your family, maybe you're not as successful as you pretend." Several relatives awkwardly looked away. Nobody spoke. Nobody defended me. I quietly closed the bill folder. I wasn't even invited. "You were." "I have no text." Mom immediately held up her phone. "See? There." She showed everyone a message supposedly sent that morning. "Anniversary dinner tonight. Don't be late." Timestamp, 9:12 a.m. I opened my own phone. Nothing. No message. Jason rolled his eyes. "You probably deleted it." I shook my head. "I didn't." Then my cousin Olivia, who worked in information technology, quietly leaned over. "Can I see your phone?" She compared it with my mother's. Then she frowned. "That's strange." She asked Mom one simple question. "Aunt Linda, could you open the message details?" Mom hesitated for the first time all evening. Olivia looked at the screen, then slowly looked up. This message was never actually sent. The room became silent. Mom's confident smile disappeared, because hidden in the message details was one tiny line that changed everything. Draft created at 9:12 a.m. Never delivered. The room fell completely silent. My mother quickly pulled her phone back. "That's not what it means." Olivia calmly shook her head. "It actually does." She worked as a senior IT administrator and had spent years troubleshooting mobile devices. If a text is only saved as a draft, it never leaves the phone. She turned toward me. "Lauren never received an invitation." I slowly looked around the table. Every relative avoided my eyes. Jason cleared his throat. Maybe Mom thought she pressed send. Olivia quietly answered. "Accidentally forgetting to send a message is possible. But that doesn't explain why Lauren was blamed for being late." No one answered. The waiter, still standing nearby with the bill folder, looked increasingly uncomfortable. "I can give everyone a few more minutes," he said politely before stepping away. I looked directly at my mother. "Why?" She crossed her arms. "I knew if I invited you beforehand, you would have made an excuse. So you waited until dinner was over?" "I wanted to make sure you came." "To pay." She didn't deny it. Instead, she shrugged. You earn the most. I took a slow breath. I work 60-hour weeks. I raise Caleb by myself. I pay my mortgage, my student loans, my son's school expenses. I don't have thousands of dollars sitting around. Jason laughed. You're always talking about responsibility. Here's your chance. I looked at him. You've lived with mom rent-free for 6 years. The smile disappeared from his face. I help around the house. I've been helping mom financially since dad died. The room grew even quieter. Most relatives hadn't known that. For years, whenever mom claimed she was struggling with bills, I quietly transferred money without telling anyone. I never expected recognition. I simply believed family helped family. Olivia looked surprised. You've been sending money? I nodded. Almost every month. Mom quickly interrupted. That was different. No, it wasn't. I opened my banking app and placed my phone on the table. Month after month. Transfer after transfer. Rent assistance. Medical expenses. Home repairs. Car insurance. Every payment was listed. Nearly $70,000 over 5 years. Several relatives gasped. My aunt whispered, Linda, you told us Lauren never helped. Mom couldn't answer. My uncle slowly looked at the bank records. She paid for your roof? I nodded. And the furnace. And Jason's car repair. Jason immediately protested. I was going to pay her back. I calmly asked. When? He had no answer. At that moment, my stepfather finally spoke. His voice was quiet. I didn't know. I looked at him. You never asked. He lowered his head. I should have. The waiter returned. I'm very sorry to interrupt. How would you like to handle the check? I smiled politely. I'll pay for exactly what I ordered. He looked confused. You didn't order anything. Exactly. The waiter nodded respectfully. He turned toward the table. So the remaining balance will need to be divided. Suddenly, everyone began reaching for wallets. The same relatives who expected me to quietly cover nearly $5,000 were now calculating their own shares. Jason complained first. This is ridiculous. Mom looked at me. You'd embarrass us in front of everyone? I answered softly. No, I'm refusing to let you embarrass me anymore. Several relatives quietly agreed to split the bill. Others apologized for assuming I had been invited earlier. Within 20 minutes, every dollar had been paid. Not by me, by the people who had actually attended the dinner. A week later, I received an unexpected visit. My stepfather stood outside my house holding a small box. I owe you an apology. He handed me a folder. Inside were copies of every bank transfer I had ever sent. He had spent days reviewing their finances. I never realized how much you've carried. He explained that many of the emergency expenses Mom requested had never actually been emergencies. Some paid for vacations. Some covered Jason's shopping habits. Some funded expensive furniture. He quietly handed me a cashier's check. I've started selling things. It's only the beginning. The amount wasn't everything they owed, but it represented accountability. Months later, Mom called asking for another loan. For the first time in my life, I answered differently. I love you, but I won't finance dishonesty anymore. She became angry. Then she hung up. Over the following year, something unexpected happened. Without my constant financial support, Jason finally found a full-time job. Mom began budgeting carefully instead of expecting someone else to rescue her. Our relationship remained distant for a while, but it slowly became more honest. One evening, Caleb asked me, Mom, why didn't you just pay the restaurant? I smiled. Because kindness and being taken advantage of aren't the same thing. He thought about that. So helping people is good. Yes, but helping should come from love, not guilt. Years later, when Caleb graduated from college, we held a simple family dinner. Nothing fancy, just the people who genuinely wanted to celebrate together. As everyone laughed around the table, I realized something important. The most valuable family gatherings aren't measured by expensive restaurants, luxury menus, or impressive bills. They're measured by honesty, respect, and making sure the people you love are invited because you want their presence, not because you want their wallet. That anniversary dinner taught me a lesson I carried for the rest of my life. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do for your family isn't writing another check. It's finally refusing to pay the emotional price of being treated like you're only valuable when someone else wants something from you.